For more on this, I'm joined by former UK Ambassador to the UN, Sir Jeremy Greenstock. Sir, good evening to you. Thank you for joining us. So, it's really ticking down on Trump's Gaza deal. Do we know if there's actually a deadline time Gaza has to respond by?
Well, President Trump has asked for Hamas to respond, he said, I think, in 3 to 4 days. I think that's very unlikely that we'll get a full positive response from Hamas in that time frame, because there are too many details of the plan that need to be known, perhaps on either side, for a clear path to peace to proceed. So I suspect that the deadline will be variable, but clearly the pressure at the moment, since Israel has indicated it will probably accept this plan, will be on the Hamas side.
Sources close to Hamas say the 20-point proposal is a Netanyahu plan articulated by Trump. Is it looking likely that Hamas will reject this deal because there's not enough in there for the Palestinians?
Yes, I think that's a clear possibility. There isn't enough in there for the Palestinians to know that there will be a solid route to political rights for the Palestinians, perhaps a state for the Palestinians, a separate and independent authority for the Palestinians. None of that is clearly sketched out as far as we know. I think that Hamas will be very reluctant to give up its weaponry, to give up its position, basically to surrender completely, unless there is a clearer assurance of a route to a Palestinian state and an end to the occupation of both Gaza and the West Bank. So from the details we have so far, Leigh-Ann, I think the route to peace is still quite shadowy, quite a long one to expect any progress in.
And Sir Jeremy, I was just thinking about what this actually does for the people inside of Gaza, because at least 46 people have died in Gaza today as Israel steps up its offensive in Gaza City. Defense Minister Israel Katz says anyone who remains in Gaza City will be considered terrorists and terror supporters. Israel is putting huge pressure on Hamas at the moment. But what does it mean for the people who are living there?
Well, as we've seen from so many stories every day, it means horror and famine and catastrophe. And Israel has not been clear, I would say, about its own intentions, because there are members of the Israeli cabinet who've said that they want to take over the whole of Gaza and indeed the whole of the West Bank. Prime Minister Netanyahu has not denied that. There is no prospect that I can see of a relief effort being quickly moved into Palestine as a result of this peace plan. There are all sorts of details that are lacking that mean a tremendous amount for the people, the civilians on the Palestinian side, who've had such a horrific time over the last 2 years. Let's remember also, Leigh-Ann, that the Hamas militant leadership that began this operation on the 7th of October with a horrific attack on Israel has brought this on themselves to a certain extent. They have not shown their own people that there is a route to peace by violence, by attacking Israel. So there's room on the Palestinian side for more explanation as well. But you're asking about the peace plan, and I, at the moment, do not think that it will be sufficient to end the conflict in the next few days.
And Hamas are being pressured by Qatar, Turkey and Egypt. Will these external players be leaning on Hamas, saying, this is your best chance of getting out of this situation in some way? Can they pressure Hamas to possibly change its mind and disarm?
Well, where will Hamas go as a result of this plan? What will be their future? Will their security, having agreed to this peace plan, be assured? Can they trust Israel to pursue every aspect of the deal as President Trump seems to want it? I think the Muslim countries who are supporting this deal and are trying to put pressure on Hamas to agree it will be asked by Hamas to provide further negotiation time, to provide security for them, and move, this whole operation into something that carries much more detail for the Palestinian side, as your questions indicate, than we've had so far. So their pressure on Hamas will not be enough on its own to bring them over the line, in my view.
And today, German federal prosecutors say 3 suspected members of Hamas have been arrested in Berlin on suspicion of plotting attacks on Jewish institutions. How big a threat are Hamas to Europe?
Well, I think that they are overall a small threat, but a lethal one if they plan this sort of attack. I think this is, if it's ordained by the Hamas leadership, is an unintelligent approach at this moment to drawing attention to themselves. They need to establish a reputation for trustworthiness in a political negotiation. I suspect that these are side movements of Hamas, that they're not part of the leadership. They've not been organized by the leadership either in Doha or in Gaza. So this is a diversion, but a very unwise one at this particular moment.
And the Gaza aid flotilla, with a number of high-profile people on board, including Greta Thunberg and 500 others, say they've been aggressively circled by an Israeli warship. Are you surprised by this?
I'm not surprised by it because the Israelis have done this before, but it was never likely to succeed. I think it was probably only going to turn out to be a gesture. No foreign independent aid efforts have been allowed in by the Israelis, so this is their form on this issue. But look at the results on the ground. Look at the suffering of the Palestinian people as a result of the curtailment of humanitarian efforts. The UN have declared this to be genocide. The UN agencies trying to move food in have heavily criticized the restrictions put on them. The UN Works and Relief Agencies, UNRWA, that is the main relief agency in Palestine, has been severely curtailed in its operations. This is heaping huge criticism on Israel's head, that they are counting, as it were, Palestinian civilians as part of the problem they have in Gaza, and women and children are dying as often as Hamas operationals. So this is a rotten picture to be looking at this moment, and the flotilla just exemplifies the difficulties we all have in getting aid into the Palestinian territories when they need it most.
Sir Jeremy Greenstock, thank you so much for joining me and for your insights and analysis.